The market square was always busy, filled with merchants shouting prices, children running between stalls, and aliens of many races trading goods. But in one corner sat a girl that no one dared to approach. Her clothes were torn, her skin covered in dirt, and around her spread a smell so strong that people turned their heads away. Every time someone walked past her, they pulled their cloak tighter or covered their nose. Some even laughed, pointing at her and making cruel jokes. She sat on the ground with her knees pulled to her chest, trying to hide her face behind her long, messy hair. But she could still hear the whispers. "She stinks worse than garbage," one alien muttered. "She should be locked away," another spat. Children were not kinder. One boy picked up a small stone and threw it toward her. The stone hit her leg and she flinched but did not speak. She had learned long ago that if she said anything, the laughter only grew louder. The merchants hated her too. "Go away!" One shouted, "You scare off my customers." Another snapped. Sometimes the guards threatened to drag her out of the square, but no one ever bothered to touch her. The smell was punishment enough. She had been there since morning, her stomach empty, her throat dry. She wished someone would give her just a small piece of bread, but no one ever did. Then in the middle of the noise, someone new walked into the square. A tall human man with a travel bag across his shoulder, his clothes simple but strong, his boots dusty from the road. He looked around the market calmly, buying nothing, just watching. His eyes fell on the girl in the corner. Unlike others, he did not turn away at once. The girl noticed him. Her heart beat faster. Maybe he too would mock her. Maybe he would throw something. She pulled her knees closer, making herself smaller, but he did not laugh. He simply walked closer step by step. The crowd watched with curious eyes. Some whispered, "What is he doing? Doesn't he smell it?" The human ignored them. He stopped a few feet away from the girl. The smell reached him for sure, but his face did not twist in disgust. Instead, he crouched down, lowering himself to her level. "Are you hungry?" he asked in a calm voice. The girl's eyes widened. She had not heard kindness in so long that she almost thought she imagined it. She shook her head quickly, not because she wasn't hungry, but because she didn't want to be mocked. The human opened his bag and pulled out a small loaf of bread. He placed it on the ground between them. "Take it," he said softly. The girl stared at it, her hands trembling. Slowly she reached forward but stopped midway. Her eyes searched his face. Was this a trick? Was he waiting for her to grab it so he could snatch it back and laugh like the others? But his expression remained calm, patient, even gentle. Finally, she snatched the bread and pulled it to her chest. She took a small bite and then another. Tears filled her eyes as the dry bread tasted better than any feast she could remember. The crowd was shocked. "That human is insane," one merchant muttered. "He'll get sick standing so close to her," another said. The human looked around at them and spoke loudly. "She's just a girl, not an animal." His words cut through the air, and for a moment the crowd fell silent. No one had ever spoken for her before. The girl's heart pounded. She could not believe it. Someone had defended her. Her throat tightened and she whispered, barely audible, Why are you helping me?" The human tilted his head, studying her dirty face hidden behind strands of hair. "Because no one else will," he answered simply. Before she could say more, a guard walked over, wrinkling his nose in disgust. "Human, stay away from her, she's cursed. Her smell is punishment from the gods, she deserves to rot," the guard said with authority. The human stood up, facing the guard without fear. "Punishment or not, she's still alive. And she deserves more than this," he replied. The guard sneered. "If you care so much, take her with you, but don't bring her back here." He laughed cruelly and walked away. The human turned back to the girl who was staring at him with wide eyes. No one had ever offered to take her anywhere. No one had wanted her near. "Come with me," he said, stretching out his hand. "You don't have to stay here." Her eyes filled with fear, hesitation, and hope all at once. She wanted to trust him, but years of cruelty had taught her better. Yet something about his steady eyes made her believe. She reached out slowly, her hand shaking, and placed it into his. The crowd gasped. "He's really touching her," someone exclaimed, but the human did not let go. He held her hand firmly, helping her stand up, her legs weak from sitting for so long. Together they walked out of the square, the crowd parting around them. Whispering and pointing, the girl's heart raced. For the first time in years, she was not walking alone. But in the shadows at the edge of the market, someone watched them closely. A pair of alien eyes glowing faintly, following their every step. The girl did not know it yet, but her life was about to change forever. The girl's bare feet dragged against the cobblestone street as the human led her out of the market. His grip was firm but not harsh, steady like a promise. She had forgotten what a safe touch felt like. Behind them, the whispers of the crowd still echoed. Some called him mad. Others predicted he would abandon her soon. But the human didn't turn back even once. His eyes stayed forward. They walked until the noise of the market faded into silence. Reaching the edge of the town where broken houses stood empty, roofs collapsed and dust covered every corner. The girl looked around nervously, her heart pounding. Where are you taking me?" she asked, her voice weak from disuse. The human glanced at her, his face calm. "Someplace quiet," he replied. "You don't need to stay where they throw stones at you." His words felt strange to her, like a language she had forgotten. No one had ever spoken to her as if she mattered. They stopped in front of an abandoned building. Its wooden door half broken, vines crawling up the wall. The human pushed it open with effort. Dust rose into the air. The girl coughed. Inside was dark and smelled of damp wood. But compared to the streets, it felt like shelter. No stones, no laughter, just quiet. The girl hesitated at the doorway. "Why here?" The human set down his bag, pulling out a metal flask and offering it to her. "Because it's hidden," he said. "No one will bother us here." Her trembling hands took the flask. She drank greedily, water running down her chin. She hadn't tasted clean water in days, maybe weeks. He watched silently, then asked, "How long have you been on the streets?" The girl lowered the flask, her eyes falling to the ground. "Too long," she whispered. "I don't remember the last time I was anywhere else." Her words carried pain, but also shame. She expected him to look disgusted, but he only nodded as if he understood. He rummaged in his bag again and pulled out a folded cloth, spreading it on the floor. "Sit," he said gently. The girl obeyed slowly, unsure why he cared enough to make her sit on something clean. Then he pulled out something she never expected, a small container of soap. Wrapped carefully in a bundle of cloths, her eyes widened, confusion mixing with fear. What are you going to do?" she stammered. The human didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked to the back of the building where a broken water pipe still dripped. He placed a metal pot under it, waiting as drops slowly filled it. When he returned, he set the pot down beside her, dipping the cloth into the water, his voice calm. "We're going to wash away the dirt. You've carried it long enough." The girl froze, her heart thudding wildly. No one had ever touched her willingly. No one had wanted her close enough. And now this stranger wanted to clean her. She shook her head violently. "No! Don't touch me, you'll hate it. You'll run away like the others." The human met her panicked gaze, his eyes steady. "If I wanted to run, I wouldn't be here," he said simply. She trembled, hugging her knees tighter. "You don't understand the smell. It's a curse. They said I'll always carry it, even water won't help." For the first time, the human's expression hardened. "Then let's find out for ourselves." He reached forward, slowly, giving her time to pull away, but she didn't. Her fear battled with hope inside her, and hope won by just a thread. His cloth brushed her arm, wiping away dirt. The cold water stung against her skin. She flinched but didn't resist. Stroke after stroke, he cleaned her arm, her shoulder, her face, revealing the pale glow of her true skin beneath. The girl gasped softly, looking at her own arm as if it belonged to someone else. The foul odor began to fade, replaced by nothing at all. Her eyes filled with tears. "It's working," she whispered, disbelief in every word. The human smiled faintly. "Curses break easier than people think." For long minutes he worked, washing away layers of filth, each wipe peeling back years of cruelty. The girl sat frozen, hardly daring to breathe, afraid this miracle would vanish if she moved too quickly. At last, when her face was clean, the human leaned back, studying her. Her skin shone faintly in the dim light. Her eyes, once hidden, glimmered with a strange alien beauty. The girl quickly turned her face away, ashamed of the tears running down her cheeks. But he said nothing, only handed her another cloth, letting her finish what he had started. Together they worked silently, and with each drop of water, with each stroke of cloth, the girl felt something heavy lifting from her soul. When they were done, she sat staring at her hands, clean for the first time she could remember. The smell that had driven everyone away was gone. She whispered, almost afraid to believe it. "Why are you doing this?" The human leaned back against the wall, his gaze calm. "Because you deserve more than what they gave you." Her lips trembled. She wanted to thank him, but the words felt too small. She had nothing to offer in return. Before she could speak again, A sound outside the broken door made her freeze. Heavy footsteps, voices whispering. The human's hand went to the knife on his belt, his eyes narrowing. The girl clutched the edge of the cloth tightly, her heart pounding in fear. They were not alone. The sound outside the broken building grew louder. The girl froze where she sat, clutching the cloth like a shield, her newly cleaned skin still damp from the water, her breath caught in her throat. The human pressed a finger to his lips, signaling her to stay silent. He moved slowly toward the doorway, knife ready. But when the voices passed, they faded into the distance, nothing more than drunken wanderers stumbling through the night. He returned to her side, lowering the blade. "It's safe," he said, though his eyes stayed sharp, still listening. The girl let out a trembling breath. I thought they had come for me." The human crouched down again, looking at her directly. "Who?" he asked softly. Her gaze dropped to the floor, her voice barely above a whisper. "The guards. They said I was cursed. They said anyone who touched me would share my fate, I thought. I thought they might come to make sure no one helps me." The human's jaw tightened at her words, but he said nothing. Instead, he reached for the pot again, dipping the cloth into fresh water. "Then let's finish what we started before they even think of coming back." Her eyes widened in fear. "No. You've already done too much. The curse, it might spread." He shook his head firmly. "I don't believe in their curse," he said. "What I believe in is what I see. And I see a girl hidden under dirt and fear. Not a monster." His words struck her like a flame in the cold. She felt her chest tighten with something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Slowly, reluctantly, she nodded, allowing him to continue. The human dipped the cloth again and began wiping the grime from her shoulders. Dirt peeled away in streaks, revealing strange markings across her skin. Glowing faintly like pale silver veins, the girl gasped and tried to cover them, but the human gently pulled her hand aside. "Don't hide," he said softly. "This is who you are." Her eyes filled with shame. "These marks, they were the reason they cursed me. They said I was unnatural, different from the others of my kind." The human studied the patterns carefully, each line flowing across her skin like a living river. He didn't flinch, didn't recoil. "Different doesn't mean cursed," he said. "It means special." Her throat tightened. No one had ever spoken those words to her before. She blinked away tears bit by bit. He cleaned more of her. Her arms, her face, her back. The glow of her markings grew brighter with every wipe, as though the dirt had smothered their light. For the first time in years, the girl felt air touch her true skin. Not the filth, not the stink, but herself. And then she noticed something, her smell. The one that had driven everyone away. It was gone, replaced by nothing at all. Her hand flew to her mouth in shock. It's gone," she whispered, almost not daring to believe it. The human gave a small smile. "Told you so," he said, wringing out the cloth. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She covered her face with her hands. I don't know who I am without it," she admitted. "The smell was my curse. My prison, everyone knew me by it. Now it's gone. I don't even know what's left." The human's voice was steady. "What's left is the person you were always meant to be." Her chest ached with a mixture of relief and terror. She wasn't used to this, being seen, being touched, being cared for. It felt like stepping into sunlight after living in shadows too long. The human reached into his bag again and pulled out a simple cloth tunic. Worn but clean, he held it out to her. "Here, put this on. It's not much. But it's yours." Her hands trembled as she took it. Staring at the fabric, no one had ever given her clothing before. She turned her back shyly and slipped it on. The fabric rough but warm. When she faced him again, she looked different, still fragile, still uncertain, but more like a person than the creature everyone mocked. The human studied her for a long moment, then nodded as if satisfied. "Better," he said simply. She lowered her head, her cheeks burning. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care?" He leaned against the wall, his voice calm. "Because I've seen too many people thrown away like trash, and I've decided I won't let it happen again. Not if I can help it." His words stayed with her, echoing in her chest, stronger than the curse, stronger than the fear. But before she could reply, a faint noise made them both turn. This time it wasn't drunken footsteps. It was sharper, more deliberate, like boots moving in rhythm. The human's hand went to his knife again. His eyes narrowing, he gestured for her to stay quiet. The girl's heart pounded. She recognized the sound. It was the guards. "Searching?" She looked at him in panic, her voice a whisper. "They'll take me back. They'll kill me, or worse, please. Don't let them find me." The human crouched closer, meeting her terrified gaze. Then we don't let them in, he said firmly. Outside, the shadows moved against the broken walls. Torches flickered, voices murmured. The girl held her breath. The human readied his knife, and the night pressed in on them like a storm about to break. Her cleansing was not yet finished because now, survival itself had become the test. The night outside the ruined house grew tense. Footsteps circled the building. The girl's trembling hands clutched at the tunic the human had given her, her breath shallow. She felt like a trapped bird ready to be caught again. The human moved closer to the door, knife in hand, his back straight, his eyes sharp, every muscle in his body ready to fight if needed. He wasn't just protecting himself, he was shielding her. And that thought shook the girl more than the sound of boots outside. A guard's rough voice carried through the broken wood. We know she's here, cursed one cannot hide her stench. Open up or we'll break this place apart. The girl froze, her heart pounding, but then she realized something. She no longer smelled. The stench that betrayed her every time was gone. Washed away by the human's care, her eyes widened. Whispering in disbelief, They can't smell me anymore. The human turned back to her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Exactly, so we stay quiet. And they'll pass. But the guards didn't leave so quickly. Heavy fists pounded on the wooden door. Dust fell from the ceiling. The girl whimpered softly, and the human glanced at her, his calm, steady gaze telling her to hold on. Finally, after long, tense minutes, the boots faded, the voices grew distant. The guards moved away, tricked by the absence of the smell. The girl collapsed against the wall, tears streaming down her face. It's real. The curse is gone, I'm free, she whispered, almost too softly to believe her own words. The human crouched in front of her, wiping a streak of dirt from her cheek. Not free yet. But closer, he said, his tone steady. She looked at him through watery eyes. Why do you fight for me? You don't even know my name, he gave a small shrug. Names can wait, survival can't, he replied, though inside he knew there was more. Something about her pain stirred a fire in him he couldn't ignore. For the first time, the girl straightened her back. Pulling her long hair behind her shoulders, she no longer wanted to hide her face. The silver lines across her skin shimmered faintly in the moonlight that filtered through a crack in the roof. The human's eyes lingered on the markings. Those aren't curses, he said quietly. They look like something else, something powerful. The girl shivered, remembering the words of her people, how they called her unnatural, dangerous, an omen of misfortune. They hated me because of these, she admitted, tracing the glowing lines with her fingertips. Said I was born wrong, said I carried poison in my blood. The human tilted his head, studying her with curiosity, not disgust. Or maybe you carry something they were afraid of, he suggested. Her chest tightened, his words planting a seed of thought she had never dared consider. Then, without warning, a faint light pulsed from her skin, a glow that spread slowly from her markings, filling the dark room with soft silver light. The girl gasped, pulling her hands back as if she had burned herself. I didn't do that, she stammered, terrified. It's never happened before. The human watched with calm fascination, though even he felt a shiver of awe. Maybe washing away the filth unlocked what was hidden, he said. Maybe this is who you always were. The glow brightened. Not painful, but warm, wrapping around her like a second skin. Her fear turned into wonder. She lifted her hands, staring at them. I feel lighter, like chains have broken inside me. The human gave a faint smile. That's because they have. Her transformation was more than physical. For the first time, she wasn't defined by the smell, by shame, or by cruelty. Her true self was breaking through. But with change came danger, for the glow could be seen through the cracks in the ruined house, and far away in the dark, other eyes noticed. The girl suddenly realized what this meant, panic returning. If they see this, they'll know I'm alive, they'll come again. Stronger. The human didn't deny it. He sheathed his knife and began packing his bag quickly. Then we don't stay here, he said. We move before dawn. The girl stood shakily, her legs weak but her spirit stronger than before. She felt taller in her new skin. Though fear still clung to her heart, she whispered, Will you still take me with you? The human looked at her as if the answer was obvious. I didn't clean you just to leave you behind, he said firmly. Her throat tightened, she lowered her head to hide the tears. No one has ever chosen me before, she whispered. He stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. Steady, grounding. Get used to it because I just did. The glow on her skin pulsed again. Softer this time, like a heartbeat in rhythm with her relief. But the night was not merciful outside. Faint horns echoed through the streets, the sound of guards signaling each other. Searching harder, they hadn't given up. The girl's eyes widened in fear. They'll find us. The human adjusted his pack, his voice low but sure. Then let's make sure they don't catch us. Together they stepped out into the night, shadows stretching long on the cobblestones, the girl's glow hidden under the tunic but her heart burning brighter than ever. She was no longer the outcast sitting in a market corner. She was something more, though she didn't know what yet. And the human was determined to find out. As they disappeared into the silent streets, unseen eyes watched from a rooftop. A cloaked figure murmuring, "So the cursed one awakens. This will change everything." The girl didn't hear it, but destiny had already begun to follow her steps. The night was cold, the streets empty except for the echo of boots far away. The human kept a firm pace, guiding the girl through narrow alleys and broken paths where the guards rarely looked, his grip steady on her hand, not letting her stumble. The girl struggled to keep up, her legs weak from years of neglect. But she didn't complain. She was afraid that if she spoke, the moment would shatter, that he might let go. Finally, they reached the outskirts of town. Past ruined walls where weeds grew tall, there stood a small cabin made of stone and wood, old but still holding together. Smoke stains marked the chimney, though it hadn't been used in years. The human pushed the door open, dust swirling in the air. Inside it was dark but dry. A single table, 2 broken chairs, and an old bed frame stood in the corner. The girl stepped inside hesitantly, her bare feet brushing the cold floor. "This will do for now," the human said, setting down his pack, his voice calm. "It's not much, but it's shelter." The girl looked around, her heart trembling. She hadn't seen a roof over her head in so long that even this ruined cabin felt like a palace. "Sit," he told her gently. Pulling one of the chairs forward, she sat slowly, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Unsure of what came next, the human lit a small lamp, the soft glow spreading across the room. When the light fell on her, she flinched. Her glowing markings shimmered faintly beneath her skin. She pulled the tunic tighter to hide them. He noticed but said nothing. Instead, he opened his pack and pulled out dried food. Breaking it into pieces, he placed some on the table in front of her. "Eat," he said simply. Her eyes widened. She looked at him in disbelief. For me?" He raised a brow. "Who else?" She picked up the food slowly, her hands trembling. She took a bite, then another, and soon tears ran down her cheeks. The taste was simple, but to her it was more than a meal. It was kindness. The human watched quietly, not interrupting her. He ate his portion in silence, letting her feel safe in the act of eating. When she finished, she wiped her tears quickly. Embarrassed, I don't deserve this," she whispered. The human leaned back against the wall, his voice steady. "You deserve more than this, but we'll start here." Her chest tightened. No one had ever said such words to her. She stared at him, searching his face for mockery, but found none, only calm honesty. When the night grew colder, the human pulled a rough blanket from his pack. He placed it over the bed frame, patting it once. "You should rest," the girl froze, her heart pounding. "You mean, I can sleep here? Where else?" he asked, confused by her shock. She hesitated, her throat closing. No one ever let me sleep on a bed," she admitted, her voice breaking. The human's expression softened. "Then tonight is the first of many," he said firmly. She climbed onto the bed slowly, lying down with hesitation, the blanket rough but warm. She curled up, her eyes wet. For the first time in years, she felt a roof above her, a blanket over her, and safety near her. But even as she closed her eyes, her mind wasn't calm. She whispered into the darkness, "They'll come for me." "They always do." The human's voice came from across the room, steady and strong. "Let them try. They'll have to go through me first." Her eyes widened in the dark, her chest trembling. No one had ever spoken like that for her sake. She pressed her face into the blanket, muffling her sobs. Outside, the wind howled. But inside the cabin, for the first time, she wasn't just surviving, she was beginning to live. Yet, as the human kept watch by the small lamp, he noticed movement through the cracks of the wooden shutters, a shadow shifting outside, watching, waiting. He didn't wake her, but his hand stayed on the knife at his belt. His eyes sharp, he knew this was only the beginning. The girl dreamed uneasily. In her dream, she saw her people's faces, the guards, the laughter, the stones, but then she saw the human's face, calm and unshaken, and the dream shifted. She saw herself standing taller, her markings glowing like fire. She woke with a gasp, sweat on her forehead. The human was still there, sitting against the wall, awake, guarding. "You're safe," he told her quietly, his voice anchoring her back from the nightmare. Her lips trembled. "Why do you watch over me?" He tilted his head, his expression unreadable. "Because someone should have long ago." Her throat tightened again. She turned her face into the blanket, too overwhelmed to speak. Outside the cabin, the cloaked figure from the rooftop stood hidden in the trees, eyes fixed on the faint glow that leaked through the cracks. A low whisper escaped its lips. "The cursed one has found a protector. This will not be allowed." The figure melted back into the shadows, leaving the cabin untouched for now inside. The girl finally drifted into a deep sleep, her body trembling less, her breathing softer. The human kept his vigil, his resolve hard as stone. He didn't know what destiny had tied him to this alien girl, but he knew he wasn't letting her go. For the first time in her life, the outcast had a shelter. And for the first time in his, the human had found someone worth fighting for. Morning came slowly, gray light slipping through the cracks of the cabin walls. The girl stirred on the bed, her eyes opening to something she had almost forgotten existed. Peace. The blanket was still around her, the air quiet, and the human sitting near the door, awake, alert. For a moment she thought it had all been a dream. But when she saw him turn his head and give a calm nod, she realized it was real. "You slept," he said simply. She blinked, her voice soft. I slept," as if the word itself was new to her. The human stood, stretching his arms, his eyes scanning the window. "We won't stay long, the guards will be back. Maybe today." Her chest tightened, fear creeping back into her heart. "They always find me," she whispered. He looked at her directly. Not this time. His tone steady, almost daring fate itself before she could reply. A sound broke the silence. Horns, sharp and echoing through the town. Her blood froze. She knew that sound too well. It was the signal of the search. The human grabbed his pack, slinging it over his shoulder. "They're sweeping the streets, we need to move," but they were too late. Heavy boots pounded outside, voices shouted. The cabin door shook under the force of fists. "Open in the name of the council. Hand over the cursed one." The girl trembled, clutching the blanket around her like armor. "They found me," she whispered in terror. The human moved in front of her, knife drawn, his body blocking the door. His voice loud enough for her to hear. "Stay behind me." The door splintered as guards forced their way in. Armored figures with cruel eyes. Swords gleaming, their leader stepped forward, his voice dripping with mockery. "So this is where the stink rat hides. And look, a human fool standing in her defense." The girl lowered her head in shame. But the human stood firm, his knife ready. "She's not cursed." "Not anymore," he said, his voice hard. The guards laughed. "Do you think washing her skin changes what she is? She's a stain, a danger to us all." The human's gaze narrowed. "No, the danger is you, hunting someone who can't even fight back." Tension filled the room. Blades raised, the girl's heart pounded. She wanted to scream, to beg them to leave him alone, but her throat locked with fear. Then something strange happened. The silver markings under her skin began to glow faintly again, brighter than before. The guard stepped back in shock. "What is that?" One hissed. The human glanced at her, calm but surprised. "It's not a curse," he said firmly. "It's power." The leader snarled. "No, it's corruption. Kill them both." The guard surged forward. The human moved fast, ducking a blade and striking back with his knife. He fought with precision, not wasting movement. His eyes sharp, his strikes deadly. The girl pressed against the wall, terror and awe mixing in her chest. She had never seen someone fight for her, never seen anyone risk themselves for her life. One guard lunged toward her, his sword raised, and she screamed, instinct flaring through her veins. Her markings burst into bright light. The guard was thrown back as if struck by invisible force, crashing into the wall, unconscious. Everyone froze, even the human, his eyes flicking to her glowing hands. The girl stared at them too, trembling. I didn't mean to," she whispered. The leader's eyes widened with fury. "So it's true, she carries forbidden power," he snarled. "She must die before it spreads." The human stepped in front of her again, his knife dripping with blood, his voice like iron. "You'll have to go through me first." The cabin became chaos, blades clashing, light flaring. The human fought with skill while the girl's power lashed out uncontrolled, knocking guards back with bursts of silver energy whenever they came too close. Fear warred with wonder inside her. She wasn't helpless anymore, but she also wasn't in control. At last, the surviving guards dragged their leader back, retreating with curses on their tongues. "This isn't over." The leader spat. "The council will send more. We'll burn this place to the ground if we must." They disappeared into the distance, leaving the cabin broken, the floor stained with blood. The girl sank to her knees, shaking, staring at her glowing hands. What am I?" she whispered. The human crouched beside her, his knife still in hand, his voice calm but certain. "You're someone worth protecting." Her eyes filled with tears. "But I hurt them. I don't even know how. I can't control it." He placed a hand on her shoulder, steady, grounding. "Then we'll learn. Together." She looked up at him, searching his face for doubt, but found none. His eyes were steady, filled with the same strange promise that had led him to her in the first place. Outside, the horn still echoed, warning the town. The hunt wasn't over, but inside the broken cabin, something new had begun. The girl was no longer the outcast hiding in corners. She was something the council feared, and the human had made himself her shield. In the shadows of the trees, the cloaked figure watched once more, a cold smile on its face. "So the cursed one awakens with a guardian. This will tear the council apart," it whispered. Vanishing into the night, the girl didn't see it, but she felt the weight of destiny pressing closer, the chains of her old life broken, but new battles waiting for the first time. She wasn't just surviving her enemies. She was standing against them, with someone by her side. The cabin was silent after the fight. Broken wood scattered across the floor, the smell of blood sharp in the air. The girl sat trembling, her glowing markings dimming slowly, her eyes wide with shock. The human cleaned his blade, his breathing heavy but controlled. He looked at her not with fear but with calm determination. "You're not cursed," he said again, his voice steady. "Whatever they told you, whatever they made you believe, it was a lie." Her throat tightened, she hugged herself. "But I hurt them. I don't even know how I did it. What if I hurt you too?" The human crouched in front of her, meeting her tearful eyes. "You didn't hurt me, and you never will. You only fought back when they tried to harm you. That's not a curse, that's survival." His words sank deep into her chest like fire melting chains. But still doubt lingered, she whispered. "Then why do they fear me so much?" The human straightened, his eyes narrowing toward the town beyond the trees. "Because fear is how they keep power. They called you cursed so no one would see the truth that you're stronger than them." The girl blinked, her tears slowing. His words felt impossible, but also right. Before she could answer, the sound of horns rose again in the distance. More guards, the hunt wasn't over. The human slung his pack over his shoulder. "We can't stay here, they'll burn this place down," he said. "We need to leave before dawn fully breaks." The girl stood shakily, fear returning. "Leave? But where? I've never gone beyond the town, the world out there." She lowered her head. "It will hate me too." The human reached out his hand, the same way he had in the market, his voice calm, certain. "Then let's find out together, and if they hate you, let them." "Because I won't," her breath caught. Her heart pounding, she stared at his hand, trembling, then slowly placed hers into it. They stepped out of the cabin, the morning sun just beginning to rise, painting the sky with pale gold. For the first time she felt the warmth on her clean skin, not hidden under filth, not hidden by shame. They moved through the forest, silent except for the rustle of leaves, every step carrying them farther from the life she had known, every step closer to something unknown. After hours of walking, they reached a hill overlooking the valley. The girl stopped, staring in awe. Rivers shone like silver snakes. Mountains stretched into the clouds. The world was larger and brighter than she had ever imagined. Her eyes filled with tears. "I never knew it could be like this," she whispered. The human looked at her, a faint smile touching his lips. "It always was. You just weren't allowed to see it." Her chest swelled with emotions she couldn't name. She turned to him. "Why do you keep helping me? You could walk away right now and no one would blame you." He met her gaze steadily. "Because when I saw you in that corner alone, surrounded by hate, I remembered something. I remembered myself years ago when no one helped me. And I swore I'd never walk past someone like that again." Her lips parted, shocked. You were like me?" "Not the same," he admitted, "but abandoned, yes. Cast aside, yes. And like you, I thought I was cursed too. Until someone gave me a chance." Her throat ached with unspoken words. Gratitude burning inside her, she couldn't speak, so she only nodded. They walked on until the sun was high, finally resting by a stream. The human crouched to fill his flask, The girl knelt beside the water, staring at her reflection for the first time. She didn't see a monster. The markings across her skin glowed faintly, beautiful, not terrifying, her eyes wide with wonder. Is this really me? The human looked at her reflection too. Yes, he said simply. That's who you were always meant to be. Her heart clenched, tears falling silently into the stream. Not of shame, but of release. But peace didn't last long across the valley. Dust clouds rose, soldiers marching. The council wasn't done. They wanted her captured or dead. The girl's fear returned. But this time it was different. She clenched her fists, the silver glow pulsing stronger. I don't want to run forever, she whispered, her voice trembling but firm. The human studied her, then nodded slowly. Then don't. Fight when the time comes, but fight for yourself. Not because they told you who you are, she looked at him. His words sinking deep, and for the first time, she didn't feel like prey. She felt like someone who could stand. As the sun set that evening, they made a small camp in the forest. The girl sat by the fire, the warmth touching her face. She turned to the human, her voice soft but strong. No one ever touched me before you. No one ever looked at me and saw more than a curse. But you gave me back my life. The human looked at her across the flames, his voice steady. Then let's make sure you live it. The night grew quiet. The fire flickered, and the stars stretched endlessly above them. For the first time in her life, the girl didn't feel chained by her past. She felt the weight of a new beginning. Somewhere in the darkness, enemies still plotted, and battles still waited, but for her, this was the first step into a life worth living. And as long as the human walked beside her, she wasn't afraid.